Well, y'all are back with me this afternoon, and I'm so happy. I love it when we can spend time together. And today, we're going to be spending some time on some different subjects today. The first one's going to be another recipe, cooking for two. I'm telling you, I got so many comments on that people want more and more recipes for cooking for two. So I'm going to be doing that quite a bit. You know, a lot of y'all that watch me and Mr. Brown, y'all are empty nesters and or just maybe a smaller family, and you just don't need them big, huge recipes all the time. And you don't maybe want leftovers every day either. Or, you know, you're like me. Sometimes you just want a little batch of something. That's all you want. You don't want to be wasteful. You don't have room in your freezer to put everything when you've got extra. If you're like me, you've, over several years here lately, you have filled your pantry and your freezers full. So I love these little recipes like this. They're easy to throw together, and it's just enough for me and Mr. Brown. So it's wonderful. And it's just enough for one person. One person can eat half of it and save the rest for tomorrow. So it's a good deal. We're also going to go out to the garden after we make some of the small batch of hot rolls, and see what's going on out there. We've kind of had some weird weather. Of course, it's Arkansas. It's spring, and that's what we get. You never know from day to day how to dress or what the weather's going to be. And we're going to talk about one of my favorite sounds about this time of year, and one of my favorite birds, and that's a whippoorwill. So at the end of this video, I hope you stay with me, because we're going to sit outside. Y'all are going to sit with me out in front of the house right before dark, and we're both going to sit there, talk about, and listen to the whippoorwills. Our first thing that we're going to do, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to use my KitchenAid mixer. This is a small enough batch that you can easily do this by hand, and but this is sitting here and I'm going to use it. And I've got all my ingredients ready here. And what you want to do is you want to take 1/4 cup of milk, and you just want to kind of scald it just a little. And you don't want to bring it to a boil. You just want to heat it up to where, you know, you kind of gets that skin, you know, on top of your milk. When you look in your pot and it's kind of got that skin on top, and that's when it's scalded. That's what we call scald your milk. So that's what you want to do with this. Okay, we're going to start out with our scalded milk. My milk is about at, you don't want it no more than 110 degrees, because that can kill your yeast. And that's just what I've always went by, and it's always worked, not to get any hotter than that. So you got your scalded milk. I'm going to put a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. And then I've got let's see, I think it's 1 1/4. Yes, it's 1 1/4 teaspoons of either active dry yeast or 1 teaspoon of your rapid rise yeast. So that'd be 1 1/4 active or 1 teaspoon of rapid. We're just going to pour that in there, and I'm just going to let this sit a little bit. Now, there's a lot of people who say, I never worry about my yeast blooming. But I've always done it, and it's always worked well for me. So I'm just going to let this sit here for about 10 minutes, and we'll be back and we'll finish them up. Okay, now we're ready for our other ingredients. Now you can use 2 tablespoons of sugar, or you can use 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm going to use some runny honey. About 2 tablespoons. I love using good honey in my homemade breads and rolls. Now, when we would make homemade hot rolls for school when I working in the cafeteria lunchroom there at school, we would have to use sugar. And we would put just enough to give them rolls, you know, a good taste. I think that's a good 2 tablespoons. What do y'all think? Okay, so we got our honey or sugar, whichever one you want to use. I've got 1 beaten egg. I've got 2 tablespoons of cooking oil, whatever kind of oil that you use. And I'm just going to mix this up. Just a little to try to incorporate a little bit. Now I've got 1 cup of all-purpose, or you can use 1 cup of bread flour. What I've got measured out is 1 cup plus 3 tablespoons. But I'm putting the 3 tablespoons aside because I may not need it, but I may. Just depends on your weather, you know, outside and inside your house. You never know. Some people don't believe that, but it's really the truth. And I've got, let's see, a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to put that right there with my flour. And I'm going to bring this down, and I'm going to change to a dough hook. I just wanted to get that other stuff mixed up pretty good. And like I said, you could do this by hand pretty easy. You can see that my dough is still pretty wet. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to add about 1.5 tablespoons. And it may take all 3 extra today of the extra. And it could take more than 3. You never know. But you want that dough to gather up on your dough hook. Okay, my dough is starting to gather up around the dough hook, but I'm not going to add any more flour to it. It's rainy here today. My house is humid inside, and I'm not going to add no more to it. I think it's plenty of flour. I ended up adding the 1 cup plus the 3 extra tablespoons, plus I added another tablespoon. So that was my 1 cup of flour plus 4 tablespoons that I ended up having to use today. And of course, this usually comes together a lot faster, but like I always say, when you're having to do a video on it, you got to go step by step. So it takes just a little bit longer. But really and truly, we're doing good. I got me some olive oil in my little bowl here. I don't need a big bowl because I've just got a little bit of dough. I'm just going to turn it over in that olive oil. And I'm going to let this rise in a warm place. I'm going to check it after 30 minutes. And then from there, I may have to go to 45 minutes. But it shouldn't take as long for this to rise as a big batch of bread or hot rolls. But I'll tell you exactly how long it took for it to rise in a very warm place, covered up. And then we'll come back and we'll make our rolls. And I'm going to bake them in a very small baking dish. And then we'll have a small batch of hot rolls, which is going to make 4 pretty good sized hot rolls. Okay, I'm going to take my dough out. It's been resting and rising for, about 45 minutes. It didn't do a lot of rising. I didn't really expect it to do too much. But I'm going to take my bench scraper here, and I'm just going to take my dough and cut it in 4 equal pieces. Just like that. And then I'm just going to make some rolls. And then these are going to sit and rise to about double. And then we'll bake them about 350 oven. And my little baking dish is not very big here. It might be an 8. So I'm going to cover this up and I'm going to let them sit one more time and let them proof for about 30 minutes. Okay, here is our small batch hot roast for 2, right out of the oven. And they are still hot. They didn't really rise today as much as I wanted them to. But like I said, it was a rainy day here, and the house just wasn't real dry in here. It was kind of humid, but they rose pretty good. And they smell wonderful. This is such a wonderful recipe when you're just wanting a little bit of hot roast or just a little bit of bread. And something else you can do with this, when you're just wanting maybe 4, you might get 5, but I'd say 4 decent sized cinnamon rolls. Use this recipe. Bake it in a little dish and you've got just enough cinnamon rolls for you and your spouse, or you and just you. That way you don't have just a big old batch of cinnamon rolls. So I hope y'all like this recipe and I hope y'all try it. So we're going to be eating these hot rolls with some pasta. So when we get done eating, we're going to go out and we're going to check out the garden. How about that? I want to show y'all my green peas. Now these green peas are planted back here in my kitchen garden. Mr. Brown's got a bunch of green peas. These are just your regular garden sweet green peas is what this is. And he's got a bunch of them planted out in the big garden. I started these quite a while back, and I do have video. And he started his later, so his aren't as big as mine. But some of these sweet pea vines, the vine is so thick and healthy. They are really doing good. But my problem right now is, and you see they're starting to bloom. My problem is right now, my trellises are not tall enough. So what I'm fixing to do is I'm fixing to take me some twine and some garden string, and I'm going to make me some more for them to trellis on is what I'm going to do, because they are really taking over and doing really good, and they're going to put me off a bunch of peas. They're way back here. That's how thick this is. So I'll have to run some string from down here up to here, and I'll show you just in a minute. And for these to go ahead and vine on, because they are really taking off. And I've got them over here at the end. They're doing really good too. Right down here, they're doing good. But see, I need to put some more string up, and where they can go ahead, and I'll tie the string up there. It's starting to rain again. So they'll have a lot more to climb on. I've also down here, I know a lot of people don't believe in companion planting. They say a lot of things you can't plant together, and that's probably true in a lot of circumstances. Down here I've got, there's some flower seeds I threw in there, but there's garlic, and there's garlic going right around here, all the way to the end. In fact, that's elephant garlic. And then I even threw some spinach in there, and me and Mr. Brown's been, well, I've been eating mainly on it, been eating salads, stuff, and taking it to work with me. So besides my lettuce in the high tunnel, I've got the spinach out here that I can come out, and there's enough here, I can make me a pretty good salad. My muscadine vine right up here is still young, but it's wanting to grow. I'm hopeful for it. I don't know if it's ever going to do anything. So I'm going to get my garden string out, and I'm going to try to lengthen my trellis for these green peas to climb. So I managed to get some more garden string up and tied up here for these green peas to climb. And I'll probably have to do it a few more times. But that'll help them out right now, because they're starting to get pretty heavy, getting blooms on them, and they're wanting to just keep climbing. And see, they've got some pretty blooms on them. We love our sweet green peas. So this is about a 6 by 3 foot bed. You can plant quite a bit in that size bed. It's just a couple foot tall. Every year it grows quite a bit. I've got several of them down through there. My cabbage is doing really good. We had some rain today, quite a bit of rain. And what you see on top of my cabbage here is tulle. If y'all watched my earlier videos, y'all know that I use a lot of tulle in my garden, especially on my brassicas, to keep all the different kinds of bugs that just want to eat your leaves up, eat your brassicas up. If you're trying to go organic and not use any kind of pesticides, a lot of times even homemade remedies are not working. This tulle, it works wonderful. Like I said, right now it's kind of way down because of rain. Usually when I know it's going to rain, I'll take the tulle off, but I was at work today. But it's still done okay. But the cabbage is really growing, and you can see that with me having the tulle on here, that I don't have a lot of different bugs eating on my cabbage leaves yet. These over here are the same way. I took the tulle off of them earlier. You can see the leaves look good and healthy. No bugs yet. Same with these right here. These right here are a couple of squash, winter squash plants that I just stuck in there. See if they'll make it. I think they're called table queen. That's what they're called. But I always do really good in these raised beds raising cabbage. Last year was a flop with everything because of the drought. This right here is the one bed of tomatoes, and y'all can tell that they really shot up since last time I showed y'all. And I really think I'm going to like these tomato trays. I fertilized them, and what I done is I poured the fertilizer and watered them the same time, put them in the tray, so they just kind of seep down and run into the roots. I got marigolds all the way around them. These are Rutgers. These are a tomato that has always done good here in Arkansas. Rutgers. Used to, they got really big. Anymore, they don't get as big as they used to. But they're still really good all-around tomato. Over here in this bed that needs a little weeding, there is, this is a Long Island cheese squash or pumpkin, whichever you want to call it. And that may be one too, right over there. And then right here, I've got some tomatoes planted, and they are planted pretty close together. What these tomatoes do, these are just a bush. I think they're, I may be saying this wrong, I forget, Better Boy or Better Bush. Anyway, they're a bush tomato. They won't get real big. They'll put off a bunch of tomatoes all at one time, then they're done. And that's what I wanted. But I also have these too. These are determinate right here. I can't remember if Rutgers are indeterminate or determinate. I'll have to look. I can't remember now. But I do know that these are determinate. So they're not going to vine all over the place. Then Mr. Brown has Cherokee Purples out in the big garden out there. But I still have a lot of work here in this garden. A lot of flower seeds that I planted that haven't come up yet. But you can see right over there is quite a bit of oregano. Bee balm, hyssop, stuff like that for the bees. If you wonder about that mailbox, focus. We'll quit. That mailbox is there because I keep like my gloves, my little garden spades and stuff like that. Stuff I need in the garden, like garden string. I keep in that mailbox. Does a good job. Wintertime, sometimes the mice want to get in there though, but anyways. There's garlic back in there. That garlic's been, some of that garlic just keeps coming back. And of course, up on this hill, we have all kinds of mullein everywhere. This one I pulled up and I just stuck it in that pot to keep it from getting run over. And it's doing really good. Danny, we made a tincture out of the mullein. And that tincture had sit in the pantry, I know, almost a good year. And then Mr. Brown got really sick. A bad cough, losing his breath, stuff down his lungs. And he took several drops of this a day. And I'm not going to say how much because he would have to tell you that. And he swears that it did help him with his congestion. But not only that, Mr. Brown, after the first couple of days, and yes, I mean, he was really bad sick. The man never misses work, and he got really bad sick. And I think I've got a video talking about it. But he refused to be sick and go to the hospital because he was afraid he wouldn't come out of it. So he would get up and he would walk. He'd walk up and down our driveway, which is down a hill, back up a hill. And then when you come back, it's down a hill, back up a hill. And if you do that several times, you're huffing and puffing. And he refused to get down and have to go to the hospital. So he'd done this tincture, and he walked. and he did get better. I'll show y'all something that a big barn rat will do. I'm talking about, Danny's done caught this rat. They will eat your garden plumb up. And we are inside the high tunnel. But he had gotten in here and ate the tops out of one, I think 4 of my brassicas, 4 of my broccolis. Just snipped them off, gone. Well, there's one laying right back there dead. It just broke my heart because they're doing so good. Then right over here, you can see I've got tulle around my bell pepper plants. There was 4 there. He come in and let me see if I can find it. Anyways, the other one was right in here. He bit it in half. It was this tall. Took off with it. I put this tulle around this because a rat or a squirrel will not, they won't get in that because their little claws will get hung up in it. They don't like it. We got a live trap set here in case there's another one. But they will come in and they will destroy what you got going on. Now, I want you to look. I got little broccolis. This is broccoli rob. And they're just popping up everywhere. The leaves are looking really good. This is my lettuce. I've got butter crunch. I've got what they call the Michelin, or however you say that. It's the different kinds of lettuces. The romaine. I got some dill going on back there. I've got some onions down the side, still doing good. Then all on the back, my flowers come up. My zinnias. So I hope they make it good and come on up and grow and look beautiful. But yeah, my broccoli robs are making little broccolis. My cauliflower is looking really pretty. It's not making anything yet. You got a patience Lori. Swiss chard. So, thank goodness the rat didn't get in here. A lot of times at night I'll come out and I'll cover them up with my row crop cover. It'll be getting too hot to do that. I'll have to put a shade cloth over it. And that does help keep them little varmints out. But here in the woods, back here, we have them big old rats. I don't ever see them. I never see them till we catch one here. And they always want to come in here in the high tunnel. I even have chicken wire up. I've got some little tomatoes right here. These are just a regular patio tomato. Got some little maters on it, and they're looking really healthy. I'm gonna go ahead and put me another bell pepper in here. In fact, I'm probably gonna do a couple more here. Replace this one. Over here, there's my hoot owl. He didn't do his job. He didn't scare the rat off. But here I've got a bed full of radishes. Kale that needs to be picked. The carrots are growing in among the radishes. And of course I got my mint for my mint tea. I've got onions back here. There's some kind of a bush, some kind of flower. I forgot what it even is. Oh, it's a perennial, and I just cannot remember the name of it. Anyways, it shoots up, and it has some really pretty, just tiny little white flowers on it, and it makes kind of a pretty big bush. Then it dies back. I got 3 squash right here. My garden sage that comes back every year. I got some cucumbers planted back here. That one's getting a little bit yellow, but I did fertilize them yesterday. So they got a ways to climb there. And I planted another squash right here. The seeds just day before yesterday. And it's a new kind of a yellow squash. It's called a butter baby. I believe that's the name of it, butter baby. And they're just little bitty yellow squash. They don't get very big. I hope they come up. Here at the end of the high tunnel, this rose bush, I planted it the first year that Danny built this thing. And I've cut it back several times, but I'm just going to let it do its thing. And it has a bunch of blooms on it. Bunch of blooms. So it'll make me some really pretty red roses. And I love taking the rose petals right before they really start dying. And I love making homemade rose water. You know, back in the days, that's what women would use on their face. It's so refreshing. It feels so good. It just makes your skin look so beautiful. I'll have to do another video making rose water. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. Mr. Brown, he was too busy today to join us, but you know he's always thinking about you. But thanks for joining me in the kitchen, in the garden, and we're fixing to go out and listen to the whippoorwills. In North America, whippoorwills range from eastern Texas to southern Canada and east to the Atlantic. The night is theirs. Although in both daylight and dark, the birds depend on their superb camouflage to see them through. Whippoorwills do their courting after sunset. The male spring ritual is an elaborate one, involving strutting, throat puffing, and a variety of noises designed to convince the silent female that he is the best mate among a forest swarming with calling males. It is almost impossible for a spring woods traveler to escape the questionable music of one of the family to which the whippoorwill belongs. Whippoorwill folklore. When a single woman heard her first whippoorwill in springtime, she must have felt her heart lurch in panic, for if the bird did not call again, she would remain single for a year. If the bird's song continued, she was fated to remain single, unless she had been quick thinking and made a wish upon hearing the first call. If she kept that wish secret, she ultimately would be married. Or whippoorwills singing near her house was an omen of death, or at least of bad luck. Another folklore. A man could rid himself of an aching back if he turned somersaults in time with the whippoorwill calls. I don't know about them folklores, but I do know that when we hear our first whippoorwill calling, it's so exciting for us. Every once in a while you'll hear two at a time, and you might even hear one get closer to us. I'm just going to sit here in front of the house and we'll just listen to the male whippoorwill hollering for his mate. You can hear them whippoorwills calling through the holler. It's one of our favorite sounds this time of year. The female doesn't call back. From what I understand, she just goes to the male. If you've never had the chance just to sit down at night or late in the evening and hear the whippoorwill calls, the whippoorwill holler, you're really missing out. Hank Williams had a song about whippoorwills. Do y'all remember it? It was a sad song. Beautiful sound in the hills of Arkansas.